Well, it was a good lesson for our guys. I mean, you play against a real team, a team that's won a lot of games in a row, team that's been in a lot of games, big games, that understand when they got to turn it up a notch. They turned it up a notch in the last 7:43. I mean, it was a 5-point game, 58-63, and then the outscore is 20-2 going down the stretch. And so even though you end up losing by 23, um, ultimately, I mean, that's what we lost by. It's just like when I go out in the golf course and I shoot an 82, hoping that, hey, I didn't shoot a 72. I shot an 82 today. That's how good I was. So um, even though it was close, it wasn't close, and it was something that we reminded our guys that now you see what it really looks like to be a winning program, and that's what Boise State is. That's what Coach Rice has built in his 10 years there. Um, is a program where you win games on the defensive end. They got the guys to do that. They got a lot of weapons, but there's certain little things. I mean, as you're on the court and you're hearing Key Jab talking, you hear how they're communicating. And that's where I let the guys know after the game is that, you guys that, freshmen don't know. I mean, Marcus Williams, Jeremiah Oden, Xavier Dussel, they've never been in that type of game before to realize what, the intensity that you have to have and the intent that you have to have every single possession in order to beat a really good team. And, the returning players, they've been in those games. They've seen those teams. They've played against them. And they're the ones that they should be the ones showing the younger guys the way of, and that goes in practice of how this is how you have to compete. This is how you have to do the little things and know. But you're also talking about a guy in Quan and Kenny are both sophomores, and Thompson and Maldo are juniors. And so you have a team full of freshmen and sophomores competing against a team of juniors and seniors, and that's the reality of right now. And it's not an excuse. It's just a reality. But our young guys, until they see that, maybe they realize, okay, coach isn't so crazy in practice. When he's getting on us about finishing layups in our finishing drills, knowing that when you play against higher level teams, you miss layups, you're going to get paid for on the other end. When you get your shot blocked, you're going to get paid for on the other end. And then defensive rebounding. I mean, you go look at my teams over the course of 4 years. I mean, we were top 25 in the country every year in defensive rebounding percentage. And that's what Boise State's been. And then I learned that from Coach Rice and the importance of just the habits that you have to build in terms of rebounding. And, there's just no excuse to get out rebounded by 24. I mean, you look at the stat sheet and you get out rebounded by 24. I mean, we should have lost by 23. And now there's some things where I think we can take away that hopefully will allow us to do some different things on Wednesday. But ultimately, it comes down to real toughness, not fake toughness. But when it comes down to when you got to get stops, when you got to finish a possession by getting a rebound, that you got to find a way to go get it. And I mean, that's just part of it. And right now, I mean, as we are a little bit banged up and small inside, we're going to have to find a way to get some rebounds until maybe a Graham gets back or an Owen gets back. But, it's one of those deals we're going to learn from and get better here. Got a quick turnaround and try to figure out a way to play better on Wednesday. Cody.
Jeff, is it safe to say that Boise State team tonight is exactly what you want your program to look like?
Well, I mean, there's no question. I mean, you saw in terms of just their versatility and just having, so many different guys that can beat you. Dutrieve had just gotten eligible. I think with Acott being out, I told the guys they're going to be better offensively. They won't be probably as good defensively with Acott out with his length, but now Dutrieve started getting some confidence, made some shots. But I thought for the most part, even though there's a lot of areas where we got to get better at. Defensively there we put ourselves in position to give ourselves a chance that last 7 minutes. But there's just a lot of little mistakes that young players make that if you go back and you watch them, that they don't make. And the beauty of them is, with success, you build and you're able to get guys where you're not sacrificing the pass handle and shooting ability, and you're able to add the the length and the athleticism, and that's what you can see with this team now is that they just got a lot of length and athleticism that makes up maybe for some of those mistakes, and then allows them to really finish at the rim. I mean, you look at our the first half we outscored in the paint. Second half they did a better job, but a lot of that is we were getting in there, but it's just a matter of can you go finish. And that's my job, is to make sure that I put them in a position to get there, but then it's their job too to find a way to put the ball in the basket. Michael.
In the first half, at one point it was, I think it was 15. In the second half, it was 18, and you guys got it down to 5. Obviously, that end stretch wasn't what you guys wanted, but you have to be, I don't know if excited is the right word, but pleased with the heart that the guy showed, right?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't from a lack of trying, but I mean, you got to do more than try. But that said, you don't know until you've been in that game. I mean, we haven't been in that game against that type of team. The type of team where you make a mistake, you're going to pay. But for our guys to, that stretch at this, end of the first half, when we were down 15, we found a way to get, 6 stops there at the end and cut that thing down to 8. And then in the second half, I mean, it starts on the defensive end. And the problem was, if you probably go back and look at that last 7, the 5 minutes, probably the 7.5 mark to probably about 2.5, 3 minute mark before they made some threes. I mean, we were good enough on our first shot, the first shot defense, but then they obliterated us on the offensive boards, and that was basically all Armis just getting in there and just wedging Thompson out and beating him to the ball. Tracy.
You had said the other day that one of the things you guys are going to have to learn real quick is that you're through playing the teams that are 150 to 350, and you're going to be playing teams in the top 100, top 15. Does a game like this, when you're dealing with only 4 players on your team that have played Division I basketball before this year, does a game like this help you reinforce to them, gentlemen, this is what I'm talking about?
Well, yeah, there's no question. I mean, it validates what you're trying to do, and it's been hard with with COVID and just the pauses and what we're able to do practice wise and having limited bodies. But it's one of those deals that you can tell them, but until they see it, until they feel it, and they felt it tonight. I mean, I was in a car crash, with my family on Easter Sunday about 4 years ago on I-25, going about 80 miles an hour, and I remember being in the passenger of our car with 4 kids, and we were sitting there rolling, rolled 4 times, and I can remember just looking back at my kids and in slow motion. And that's kind of what we looked like in the first half. I mean, those first 5 minutes, you saw some of those balls that were hitting the ground, and our guys just kind of had that look in their eyes where they just kind of just were shocked. And that's where I told it, a team like that, you got to realize what you're in for. And they don't know until they see it and feel it. And so hopefully now, as we make our way moving forward, that's a top 3 team in our league, if not maybe the best team. I don't know, but I know that from a talent standpoint, man, and from a ability to have multiple guys, they can afford a guy or two to have an off night. We can't afford a couple guys, but that's a credit to what Leon's built there, and something that as much as you want to push the process, and you want to get it's hard, and you're young, and we're gonna have to go through some growing pains like this, and we did that year 1 at Boise State, year 2 at Boise State when we played a bunch of freshmen and got our tails kicked a little bit, but ultimately we found a way to get to the NCAA tournament the next year. So as long as they learn from it and get better, that's all we can ask for. Davis.
Jeff, with the rebounding, I mean, right now, is that strictly a effort, a physicality thing, or is there some other sort of things to that?
No, I mean, obviously what I've done in the past, I mean, what we do every day, I mean, go look at the numbers. I mean, we were we were small, and Grant, we were playing in a smaller league, but rebounding is about habits now, and we do all the same things we did when I was at UNC, and we were a top 25 defensive rebounding team in the country. I mean, we were almost above 80% in terms of defensive rebounding percentage, and so it's not like we don't work on it. I mean, we emphasize it. I mean, that's a big part of our program, is the ability to limit teams to one shot. And at some point, I mean, I don't know what to tell. Thompson's going to have to find a way to get. I don't know if he can. And if he can't, at some point, we're going to have somebody that can. And if you can't go rebound, you can't play. If you can't guard the ball, you can't play. If you can't understand the scouting report, and you're going to end up getting beat by 1,000 paper cuts. I mean, that's ultimately what you end up getting beat by, and that's where, the young guys don't know, but it's something that we just got to continue to show them on film. We got to continue to harp on in practice and continue to build that discipline and effort that allows us to be a team that can compete at the higher end and win games like this. Michael.
When we talked to Marcus, you brought up, I think the phrase was holding the wall, and he said toward the end.
Grabbing the wall.
Grabbing the wall, that you guys maybe got a little bit tired. Did you kind of feel like that was maybe part of the problem during that 22 run?
Yeah, so a time when I was at Boise State, we had some Navy SEAL group come in the program, and they threw all our guys in the pool, and they're sitting there swimming with sweatsuits on, and they're cotton sweatsuits, and they're trying to take it off the top and trying to pass it on to another guy. And at some point, you have a choice. You can either try to figure it out, help your teammates out, or at any point in time, like, you can just go grab the side of the wall of the pool and just say, hey, I'm out, tap out. And there's a lot of moments within a game, especially as the game kind of goes up and down, where you have a choice, as a player, to where, hey, I'm tired. And then now you're playing 5-on-4, or now you're playing 5-on-3. But then that's also too where you can make runs, where those maybe 3-0, 4-0, 5-0 runs when that other team gets tired, and that can make the difference between winning and losing. So, a big part of our program, what we talk about, is you can't grab the wall. And obviously we were the team that grabbed the wall there in that last 7 minutes.
Jeff, you worried about the three-point shooting over the last 4 quarters at all?
It's I'm not sure what we ended up tonight. I mean, we were 6 for 19. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm worried about the misses. I'd be, going back and just seeing what were the quality of the shots. I mean, were they paint touch threes? Were they rotation threes? If they were non-paint threes, then that's a different story. And I think that's too with the younger team, when you're playing against, and you haven't played against a team that forces you to get to that second, third, or fourth action where you got to try to keep your flow. That takes effort. But then you also too, until you've seen that, you don't know it until you've felt it. And that's something that we've been harping on these guys, is when you play those teams, and you play those 250 to 365 teams, we're good enough to where we can manipulate the coverage, and we'll be able to score probably on that first action or get a pretty good shot. Well, you start playing against the better teams defensively, guess what now? You're going to have to find a way to move those guys around and try to force it in, which I thought, we did have some really good possessions. I mean, we got in the paint, especially the first half and in stretches, we did a good job. But, as to beat good teams, you got to do it for 40 minutes.